As I'm sure you've all heard before, being an exchange student is one of the most eye-opening and unforgettable experience that someone my age can go through. Living abroad, away from your friends, your family, all the familiar places and things that you're used to is extremely difficult, but at the same time it's so rewarding because you learn so much about yourself. And now I'm really not going to focus too much on time that I spent away in Taiwan because I've heard similar things from past exchange students, there's people in this room, and Kathleen and Lita. I'm more or less going to focus on the afterwards when I come back home and adjusting back. I like to call it the rebound effect. One of the big things that I learned about myself is how I can be more mature and more focused on the things that I do in life. When most kids have a goal, like a dream job that they would love to do. For example, I want to be an astronaut or a fireman or something extravagant like that. For me, it was always being a professional pianist, play in front of thousands of people at concert halls and things like that. When I was away, my high school in Taiwan, Zhonghe, was very relaxed with my scheduling, and I could schedule things that fit me as a person better. So I, of course, added a bunch of music classes. And through that experience, meeting all the teachers there and the different views of music as a whole in a different country, I learned so much about the field, and I focused a lot more onto it. My first host family had a piano, and at that point I didn't really speak any Chinese, so I had nothing to do after school. So I played piano for 3 hours a day. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but it actually helped me so much. And now that I'm back here, for example, before I went on exchange, I never took this seriously. I always had the goal in my mind that I want to do this, but I never really sat down and did it. But now that I'm back here, I realize how important these goals are to have. And now I've matured a lot more and realized that I need to do this and take it very seriously. And that doesn't just apply to my personal music thing, it goes for everything. When I'm overseas, you want to try and do everything you possibly can in your host country. So I had to focus and figure out what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, try and get as much as I could in while I was there for just a short time, of a year. The other thing is I learned how I could be more independent. I've never really been the type of guy to stick close to home and really close to your family. I would hang out with friends. But the one thing I did was I would always want my parents' approval to do anything and everything that I wanted to do, like go out with friends or who I was with or whatever. I'd always have to run it by them because I was scared. And now that I was overseas, I learned to live on my own more and do things for myself that I thought were right. And like I said, I wasn't super close to my parents and super dependent on them. And sadly, that actually carried over a little bit when I was overseas. At first, I didn't really stick around with my host family as much as I wanted, as I should have. And that also made me realize as I went through the year that not only are your friends and your relationships like that are incredibly important, but also your family member relationships. And I worked on that. And I matured and kind of controlled who I hung out with, what I did, and how I spent time by myself and with all the other people that I care about. The other thing is I learned more about world issues and things that are going on, bad, good, just international problems. Every culture has their own issues, their own problems, and their own reasoning for this. For example, Taiwan is kind of going through an independence movement. We think of ourselves as an independent nation, but America, Canada, all these bigger worldly nations don't see it as an independent country. And on the American side, I don't really have to explain how bad the political system is right now. That's kind of my point there. Most of you in this room are Canadian, I can assume that. And when I mentioned the American political system, it's kind of funny. I mean, admittedly it is, but for me being an American who lives there, it's actually pretty terrifying. And that just shows that depending on where you are in the world and how open-minded, you can have very different views of the same issues. Now, I would like to share a little short story. It's kind of it was my lowest point when I was overseas. I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I got to Taiwan, I was just trying to adjust to the new lifestyle. I was trying to, get over the jet lag, which was ridiculous, and learn the whole living with a new family never once in that first 3 weeks attempted to learn any Chinese. This kind of came to bite me in the butt later because school started. My host family taught me one time how to use the bus system to get to my school. Just once. I rode with them, and then I thought I was comfortable with it. The next day, I went to school, and I was fine. On the way back, the one thing they didn't tell me is after school is out, there are 3,000 kids going to one bus stop. So every bus that you get on is packed in like sardines. And for me, I had no idea what was happening. I was terrified. I got off like 20 stops before I was supposed to. I don't know why, don't ask me. And it was pouring rain outside. I didn't have an umbrella, and I was too scared to get on another bus because I knew the same thing was going to happen. So I just walked back. It was a pretty simple route, so I figured out how to walk back to my apartment building by myself. When I get there, I should say my first host family was a wealthy family. So in order to use the elevator to get up and down, I had to have like a special key card to activate it, and I didn't have that at that point. My family didn't do that for me. They told me to go to the front desk and ask. But like I said, I had no Chinese at all. So the guy at the desk had no English at all. So it was a very awkward time trying to convince him, like, I'm an exchange student. He didn't understand that. Since I'm brand new, I didn't know any of the information they asked. I didn't know the apartment address, the apartment number, anything. And they just said, call the person. And of course, my cell phone was dead. So I don't have any other information, and I thought, call my counselor. She's the one person who's supposed to help me with this. She never answered. So by the end of this whole situation, I was actually, because they couldn't have me just sitting in the lobby, they actually threw me out of the building. So I was outside. I was technically homeless for 3 hours. It was pretty terrifying. And the real point to that story is that I had a epiphany there. I realized that, for those first 3 weeks, I was just having fun. I was enjoying the life there, and I wasn't focusing on what was really important in the linguistic skills. So from that moment on, after that whole thing was resolved, I really focused on learning the language. That was like a turning point in my life overseas. And because I decided to do that, much months down the line, I think it was in March, so near the end, I ended up going to a district-wide Chinese speaking contest. We had to give a speech in Chinese in front of a crowd of about this size. Every inbound student in our district, which there were 64, I think, had to give a speech, and I ended up winning first place at the contest. What really amazed me about that is there were inbound students who were 100% fluent in Chinese. Like, they didn't have any notes on stage, they were just talking and talking like I am now. And I still honestly don't know to this day how I won. Part of it was that dedication after I was homeless. I realized I needed to work more on my Chinese. And because I worked so hard, it ended up bringing me to that point where I could say, I won a Chinese speech contest, which made me really happy. I just want to close up by saying that I'm on my third year of the Rotary the exchange student process, and these past 3 years have been the best times of my life. Meeting all the crazy people from my outbound year, being away in Taiwan for that year, and now being back here, meeting all the new inbounds, and working with Rotarians and making life here a really welcoming place. And I just want to say that Rotary has helped me realize who I am, and I really would love to do the same thing for any of the new students and anybody who needs any help. I hope to be a part of Rotary. Before I get off the stage, I just have a quick announcement. I'm sure you guys have all noticed that all of the students have been going around selling these dinner tickets. And I know most of you have probably bought some already, but they will be continuing to sell these tickets. So if you haven't bought any yet, please come to me and buy them from me. Thank you.
You already have bought some.